What is happening, everybody? Adam has a podcast, episode 33. I've had a very busy week. Let's go into it. Now, this is the kind of week I should be having every single week, to be honest. So let's start back. We start on Wednesday. Wednesday I had my haircut, not really that exciting. Thursday, I was at an audition in Manchester. Now, I think I mentioned it in the last podcast. Basically what it was a podcast for a social media group who want to start doing sketches with Manchester-based talent. Now, I say talent because I think they thought they were inviting a wider spread of creators from the Manchester area, but everyone who was there was basically a stand-up comedian. Now, some people who were there are primarily something else. So Rhys Harris-Clark was there. He, I think, sees himself as primarily an actor, but he does stand-up comedy as well. But everyone there, regardless of what they may primarily want to be, are also stand-up comedians. Does that make sense? All right, there we go. So that sets the kind of scene. So they were seeing 20 people, 10 in the first slot, 10 in the second slot. I turn up there, and Rhys is already there with Rhiannon, who's his friend. Who every time I see Rhys, actually, they're together. And I was out half an hour early because the trains were down. Every train was down because of some kind of power outage. And I did think, like, right, mate, I guess I can't go then, or can I get a bus? I thought, nah, bus won't get me there on time. Thought I might just have to phone them here and be like, oh, I can't make it. And then I thought, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go above and beyond. And I rang an Uber. It was just less than 15 quid. And I thought, you know what? The train would have been about 7 something. Then it would have been a tram, which would have been about 4 something. So about 11 quid. Okay, I'll pay about 15 quid. It's just a few quid extra. I get dropped off at the door. I know I'll be there on early. And I can stick with my commitment for the sake of an extra £3. Not a problem. Boom. Got myself there in the Uber. Half an hour early. They were there. Fantastic. The guy who was running it came out and he was like, "Oh, you guys are really early." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, mate," but I didn't want to say anything. So the three of us went in. We just, chatted. And I don't know Rhys and Rhiannon that well. I know them like reasonably. We've spent a couple of hours in each other's presence, so it was nice to kind of get to know them a little bit. So I'm asking them questions like, "Oh, you did this, you did that. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. How did this go? How did that go?" That kind of, just trying to be a good colleague, let's say. So we're talking kind of work stuff and we're being friendly. So nice. And then just as it's about showtime, the 7 other people come in. And they must have all been waiting in the reception area. And we were obviously at the reception area half an hour early, so he'd let us into a main kind of seating bit. And it's a big kind of shared working space. And it's kind of what I expected. So we're there. And you go around the table and you introduce yourself. And as it got further and further on, people are giving more and more details about themselves. And obviously, this is an audition, so this is your opportunity to shine and give them kind of a clearer picture of you and sell yourself, essentially. But stand-up comedians, we're no good at that. For the most part, we're no good at that. And first up was Charlie Lewis, and I can't remember what Charlie said, but Charlie, give like a reasonable amount of information, I thought. And then Dom Hatton Woods was next, and Dom gave essentially next to no information. Was basically like, yeah, quite similar to him, really. Next was Jack Wood. Next was Jacob Conn. Next was me. And, I tried to say things that were different from everybody else because in my mind, we all have the same things to say. So try and say the things that are a bit different and try to say the things that are a bit more relevant. But again, I couldn't say it in a sell myself kind of way. I was saying it's like, I guess I'll do this, I guess I'll do that. In hindsight, I wish I could just shake myself a little bit and go, Adam, just tell them what you do. Say something along the lines of, yeah, I do a lot of collaboration sketches. Yeah, I like to collaborate with other comedians when I can. I like to write for them, and I also like to direct and produce it as well. Give a little bits of information like that. Tell them that you like to do these kind of things. Not that it's a chore, which it is a chore sometimes. And I worded it like herding cats because it is. That's what it's like, getting stand-up comedians together. 1, to get on board with filming something, but 2, to get them all in the same place at the same time. That is a mission. That is a real mission. So we did that. We went around the table. Then the next half of people, next was Aaron Wood. Then it was Jack McLean. As we get to Jack McLean, this is where it starts to ramp up a little bit. So Jack has written a sitcom for the radio. So Jack starts to go into more details about that. The next lady was the only person who I didn't know, and she gave quite a lot of information about the stuff she's been doing and what she wants to do and who she's linked up with and these kind of things, and all industry type of stuff. And then it's Rhiannon, and then it's recent. So all of that side was more of a wider, besides Aaron, who's in the stand-up world more than anything else. Everyone, the other four on that side were all very much like, oh, we actually have a bit of a wider spread in terms of what we're looking to do in the entertainment world. So, okay, they give way better answers than us. And it was a good learning lesson to be in that kind of environment. And I imagine when it's going to be a audition for something that, like, I really, really want. Let's say, I said this to someone, I said, listen, Coronation Street, I don't watch it anymore, but I watched it when I was a kid. If I got the chance to audition for Coronation Street, I would be really nervous for that, because in my head, I know what Coronation Street is, and it's something that I've watched, I did watch for years, my mum watched for years, and it's part of the cultural zeitgeist in the UK. Oh, even probably a bit less than it used to be, but still, it's very important. And that would be something that, like, I would love to do, as it's something that, like, I've had enjoyment of in my personal life, and it might be beneficial in my working life. So it was good to get that experience now, so that when I am in something like that in the future, I can probably put myself better forward and put myself across better. Can I do that better next time when I'm not even putting it across well this time? I don't even know. But that was Thursday, daytime, 4 o'clock. Now, there were 2 slots, 4 till 6, 6 till 8. We finished about 5:45. As we're coming outside, the next lot are coming in, so I'm bumping into Jack Kelly and a few other people who were coming in. I didn't know a lot of the other ones specifically, so I was kind of glad that I was in with my first group. And then chatted with them for a little bit. I had a little bit of time to wait around. Then I was going to get the tram into Manchester. Then I realised, well, I've got a gig in Bury tonight. I might as well just get the bus from here to Manchester and then the bus from there to Bury, and it would just be £2 for me. So boom, okay, did that. Got myself to Bury for the gig. It was the Bury Met. I was the first one there. Again, there early. I was the third one there for the audition. I was the first one there for the show. So the guy puts me into the green room. Been in the green room before. Now, I did this gig back in 2020 for the old promoter Paul Haslam, or as he liked to be called, Paul Haslam, BBC comedy correspondent. So did the gig for him in 2020. Now, it was one of my first ever paid gigs, and it was right before the pandemic, and the pandemic for me came at a really bad time because I was just starting to make moves in stand-up into paid work, and all of a sudden, that all goes away. Get yourself back on the open mic scene when we open up, lad, because everyone's dropping down a rung or two. Not super ideal, to be honest with you, but that's what happened. Anyway, I did that, and I felt it went okay last time, and this time, to be completely frank, I felt it went okay to good. The audience were very much an older crowd, very much so an older crowd. So I felt it a little bit difficult with my material to keep the momentum. Like, I feel like in that room, about 90% of them were over 50, I would say. If not 80%, maybe 90 is wrong, but 80% was over 50. So the age gap was a bit big, let's just say. It was a bit vast. Not that it was, like I said, not that it was bad whatsoever. It's just that because there was that age gap, there was that slight disconnect. So I'm having to do the extra legwork to bring us closer. And with the material that I had in mind that I was going to do when I got out there on stage, even though I have like a rough idea, because it was only 15 minutes, I wanted to be bang on at my time. I didn't want to go over anything like that. So yeah, it was a little bit trickier this time around than last time, because last time I only had my set 10 minutes and I just did me 10 minutes regardless of how it was going. This time I had a bit more flexibility, so I was able to, slightly maneuver things here and there. But yeah, when I was on my way out, a lot of pats on the back, a lot of well done young mans, which I thought, do you know what, fair enough, they enjoyed it more than the massive amounts of laughter. Because for me, what I love is I love every single joke for every person in the room to be laughing. And when you take away any person not laughing from that, and then do that for multiple jokes, then you start to lower the standard of how well the gig is going. And I always want it to be every person laughing at their loudest for every single joke, and then that's how I gauge myself when I'm on stage. So this one, I would call it a Ooh. Four and a half out of 10. That's what I would give myself for this one. A 4.5 out of 10. Maybe to 6.5 out of 10. Somewhere in that range. Maybe 5.5 to the right way. But either way, somewhere in that range. Enjoyable gig. Enjoyed it. Nothing bad about it. Just like I say, with it being a bit of an older crowd in that place, it was a little bit harder for me to get into. But that's great for me because it makes me push a little bit more towards, okay, write more stuff that you can play to an older crowd then. Make stuff that is more lean that way. And I have a lot of stuff in my overall stuff like that. And again, it puts me more in that zone of like, just be on the fly, ready to go. Flip, here we go, let's go with this stuff because this is the crowd and this is the kind of stuff that they're going to enjoy. And I did that a little bit here and there, and there's certain bits of certain jokes I cut out and certain bits of certain jokes I added in that usually I don't put in. So there we go, yeah. Tricky old gig. In terms of who else was there, it was fun. Tom Wrigglesworth was the host. I've met Tom a couple of times, but I've never spent a long amount of times in his presence. But with him hosting, he's there all night. I was the first one there. I live quite close to the Bury Met, so I thought, do you know what? I'm going to stay all night. I'm going to sit and watch every other act, and I'm going to enjoy this. So it was nice to spend a bit of time with Tom. Barry Dodds was there as well. I like Barry. Barry's a bit of a quirky character, and I think he'd say that himself. Nice. I like being around him. He's got a nice vibe, and let me tell you, smashed the gig. He smashed that gig. So he's a little bit older than me, but at the same time, I could hear when he was doing his set. He's chopping and changing certain things. He's adding things and taking things away to get the most out of them. So great listening to him. Maureen Younger closed the show. Now, I never met Maureen before, so that was nice to meet Maureen. And we, you just chat again. You chat here and there. You get to know her a little bit. And again, it was the flip side of what was happening earlier in the day at the audition. Oh, I didn't even talk about the rest of the audition. Anyway, it was the flip side of what happened earlier at the audition, where it was me with the two younger people, Reese and Rhiannon. Whereas I'm the one asking them questions, trying to be a good colleague. This time, I'm the young boy in this dressing room. I'm just sitting there being quiet and they're talking to me and I'm replying when spoken to. And that's how I do it. Mouth closed, ears open, learn what you can. Right, let's go back to the audition. So, yeah, we all 10 of us introduced ourselves. Then we went into a private theatre room and they'd asked us to bring a script to practice in front of everyone. Or if we didn't have one, you could practice with somebody else. Okay, not a problem. So I brought an old one that I've done, Harry Potter, modern Harry Potter now, as he's grown up, and there's a documentary, and it's the rise and fall of Harry Potter, basically. That's a kind of a sketch that I did before. I wrote it for myself, and then I thought, you know what? That was when I was in a place where I really wanted to feature other people in my sketches, and I wanted to do more of the producing side of things. And the writing side of things, so I wanted to write it and direct them and tell them, okay, say it like this, lean here, do this, look this way, look that way, say it like with this kind of inflection. I wanted to do that kind of thing, so I wanted to improve those skills of mine and kind of show them off a little bit as well. So again, when I'm in these kind of scenarios, I can show people, hey, look, this is what I've done, and da-da-da-da. Anyway, so took that old sketch, kept the lines that I liked, took out the lines that I could improve on, put some stuff in there to build it up. And when I went in there, a lot of people had sketches that took two people to be in it. So like Dom Hatton Woods was one of the people, and his sketch was two people. What they did is they split us into 5. The other 5 went in first, and we were outside. So we were kind of milling around, we were chatting with each other. There was a table football there, so me and Dom played a bit of table football, smashed him 6-1, by the way, absolutely hammered him into the ground. He's terrible at table football. Don't know what made him think he could possibly play against anyone. Never mind me, who's decent at table football. Anyway, what a humble brag that is. I'm good at table football. Adam, nobody cares if you're good at table football. I really care, though. I love table football. I'm not like an elite level or anything like that, but I love playing it very casually and beating people not so casually. Anyway, so me and Dom played, beat him. Then afterwards he was like, do you want to read my script? And I was like, if you want. And he was like, what do you mean if you want? I said, well, you ask me. Like, you ask me if I want to. And I'm not fussed either way. So, like, if you want me to, I'll do it. So we did it, practiced it together. So then when we went into the actual, like, theatre little room, I say a theatre room, it's like a little studio space. But when we went into there, I helped him do it. So I did the part of a person who's going in for therapy, and he's playing a therapy who's live streaming the conversation. And I'm like, well, what the hell am I supposed to be live streaming this? Anyway, good idea. And we did that, and it was enjoyable to go back and forth and collaborate with other people. And then the five of us were kind of talking before, and we were kind of like, we should just do this ourselves. We should, like, it'd be great to collaborate with these people, but what's stopping us from just teaming up and being like, right, let's all be here at this time and this day, and let's film some stuff together. So you might see some stuff from us in the future, which I think would be nice, you know, to team up with those guys and get stuff filmed together and collaborate and all that kind of jazz. So yeah, we're in there, did my Harry Potter reading, which I thought was okay. Out of the five of us, I think we all felt that Charlie Lewis's was the best, or the one that he liked the most. So that, I wouldn't be surprised to see Charlie go on that with him, basically. But yeah, it was nice to do, but like I say, I took it as experience. Whether I get it or not, it doesn't matter. I take it as experience for in the future, hopefully audition for something else, hopefully audition for something that, like, I'm really passionate about, that like Star Wars. Not a big Star Wars, like, super nerd or anything. I've watched all the films, obviously, multiple times, watched a lot of the spin-offs, but being in Star Wars, to me, that's just something that I would love to do. Like, I don't know what it specifically is about Star Wars, but just, I'd love to be in it. I'd love to play a character, get a figure made of me, or for me, or chef's kiss, love it. A trading card, sign it, or would love that kind of thing. Anyway, that was Thursday. Did the gig. Again, Maureen smashed it as well. Tom Wrigglesworth was smashing it as MC. And then again, maybe I did better, because then I realised, because Maureen did say when I came out, she goes, oh, that sounded really good. So again, maybe I'm just judging it harshly because I wanted to have like a 10 out of 10 gig, and maybe I had a 7 or 8 out of 10 gig, and maybe that's why in my mind it was just, you know, okay to good. I don't know. Anyway, next day comes around. Now, I was booked for the gig in Wrexham, Wales. International comedian I am. You know, how's my Welsh accent? Good? No? Jamaican? Okay, thanks. When I got a message at 5 a.m. from Danny McLaughlin. Now, Danny is one of the, yeah, I'd say he's one of the big dogs of the Northwest comedy scene. And he's messaged me saying, what time are you on at Kev's gig tonight? So Kevin Caswell-Jones is the guy who's hosting and it's his gig in Wrexham. So in my head, I'm like, I'm not too sure, but I know that he sent me a message, and I wonder if the time's on there. Have a little look. 9:05 is my stage time over there. So I sent the message back today. Hey mate, I'm on at 9:05. Why? What's up? And he replies back going, I've got a festival gig 20 minutes away. Do you want to come and open it? And I was like, ooh. I mean, I don't see why not. First of all, if it's a festival gig, there's probably some kind of payment involved. Second of all, it's nice to be asked. And third, I've never done a music festival before. I've been to one as a punter. I went to Tea in the Park twice. I went to Leeds Festival, loved it, had a great time there. However, this is different. This is performing at one. And I was like, oh, I love the idea of that, you know. Yeah, I'll absolutely do that. Like, I didn't even ask him how much he's going to pay me. I've still not asked him. He's told me he's going to send me something over once he's been paid. I'm happy with that. Whenever he does that, brilliant. But nice to be asked. Nice to go and do it. I looked at the poster before I went, and on the poster for that weekend was like, I think James Morrison was that night. You make it real for me. This video's gonna get like banned now, isn't it? Because obviously they're gonna think it's the real person singing. Terrible joke. I delivered it awfully. Anyway, James Morrison, Ronan Keating. Life is a roller coaster. Just gotta ride it all night long. Here's a little Ronan Keating, and there was like fun fairs all around, so not quite a roller coaster, but there's fun rides around Ronan Keating singing roller coaster. Here's a fun fact for you. My dad doesn't listen to music. I've never heard my dad listening to music, or at least music in English, because he never listens to music. But I remember one time he dropped me and I'm assuming my mum and my sister off at my grandparents' house when we were kids. I was sat in the front of the car, and on the radio was Life is a Roller Coaster. And all the times I've been in the car with my dad, I've never heard him have the radio. And that's the only song I've ever heard in the presence of my dad. Life is a Roller Coaster by Ronan Keating. So Ronan Keating's on this festival. Vengaboys is on this festival. So, Now we're talking. When I was a kid, Vengaboys were massive. That was their era, like boom, 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 boom. I want you in my room. Like, I remember, like, in my mind, Vengaboys are a group for kids because it was out when I was a kid. But you listen to lyrics like that, you listen to songs like, ooh, we're going to Ibiza. Like, you're like, wait a minute, nightclub in Ibiza, boom, 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 I want you in my room. The Venga bus is coming. Like, all that stuff, that it's all like kind of adult themed stuff. That's definitely not for kids. But in my mind, Vengaboys are a band for kids. And I don't like the fact that they were on this lineup, it just started to trigger all this stuff in my mind that I was like, I actually really liked the Vengaboys when I was a kid. And the fact that I technically shared a lineup with them, a festival lineup, being on with the Vengaboys, Ronan Keating and all this, it feels like a weird career milestone of mine. Regardless of how much, he might send me £3.26. That would be my fee. Regardless of what I get paid for it, I had such a good time. I enjoyed myself so much just being at that festival. Now the gig itself, it was tough. So stand-up, typically you want dark, low roof, 4 walls, all closed in. The light is only on you, quiet audience, sat theatre style, all facing one way. Right, that's what you want. This was in a tent, massive roof, right? 5 open doors, at least. There's 2 on the back as well, for people to walk in. People sat all over the place, facing all over the place. Like, there's no real rhyme or reason. They just walk and sit in any space that they think is free. And I've done the same thing at festivals. I know exactly what it was like. I don't blame them. But it's not an easy gig. And people who were walking in just being like, we can just relax in this tent for a little bit, because the other ones, they've got bands and it's a lot of noise going on in there, and it's quite warm outside, so we just sit there in the tent. There's like less noise and like we can get away from the heat. They're not that bothered about the stand-up, some of them. Or maybe there's bigger names later on, like as I was leaving, Adam Rowe was coming in, and Adam Rowe's got a massive following, especially in that area. So it was at Clomandelly Castle in Cheshire. Adam Rowe is from Liverpool. He's massive, especially in the northwest. He'll have loads of people who would have come to just see him at that tent. So there might be people waiting and sat in good places being like, I can't wait for Adam Rowe to get here. Meanwhile, I'm on stage and they're probably like, we're not bothered here. So it was a tougher gig. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to plough on, do my stuff and just try and enjoy myself. And again, it went okay. I won't lie to you and say that is a video of me being on stage that I need to send to promoters, because it's not. It's something that, like, I got through it, and that was again, it helps with the experience of being a stand-up. It helps you to go, okay, let's try and figure out different ways that we can engage people in these kind of environments, and let's. I mean, I'll be honest. I think they would have liked crowd work, but like that's what Danny's doing. Obviously, he's the host, and that. I'm not there to do crowd work, I'm there to do my set. So if I just would have gone off and started doing crowd work, he might have got a bit annoyed and being like, no, just do your stuff, mate. I'm going to do the crowd work. Don't you worry about that. Don't you do it and like spoil them because you do it wrong, or like say the wrong thing to them. Then when I try and ask them what their job is, and if they were this person and who, then you've already done it, but in a worse way maybe. So yeah, tough gig. But like I say, good experience. And just because something's tough doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. You should do it. You should get stuck in, and it helps make you better, doesn't it? Makes you better. And then hopefully when you're then put in an environment where, here's another thing. There was like, I'm sure the music got louder while I was on stage, and I went with a Mighty Swab, and he said, yeah, I think the music got louder when you're on stage because there's music from outside, from like the fair rides and all that kind of stuff, all just like bleeding through the tent. So I don't know how much. You want them to just hear you 100% and not be able to hear anything else, because anything else could be a slight distraction, or like if they like the song coming in, like anything can ruin it. Anyway, you do it because hopefully one day you'll end up in a location where the setting will be perfect. There'll be all people there who've come just for live stand-up comedy. It will be in a low roof. It'll be a theatre style where they're all facing the same way in rows. It'll be all dark. The light will just be on you. You'll be on a stage. You'll have a brilliant microphone. There'll be no sound bleed. And that is exactly what happened when I went to the other gig in Wrexham at pawb. And honestly, I said it to Squab afterwards. I went, you know what? I needed that. After the last 2 days, like I had both gigs that like were a little bit tough for different reasons. Didn't get the result I wanted out of either of them for different reasons. But here was one where it's perfect setup. Boom, go out there, do your stuff. Now the headliner, it was Dave Longley. He got there's a bit of traffic, like roadworks or like there was a crash somewhere or whatever. And the Kevin who was running it basically said to me, he goes, "Listen, Dave, I'm going to be a little bit late. You don't have to do over your time, but if you go over, it'll actually be helpful. So I'll leave you with that." And I said, you know what? I said, that's fine, not a problem. So I was booked to do 20 minutes. I did about 24 in the end because I just managed to I was just chucking random stuff in there. I was having fun with the crowd. And then before I knew it, it got to over 20 minutes. And I thought, right, I best do my closing bit and go because he might be here. He might be here or he might be around the corner and I don't want to be overrunning and making the headline away because that doesn't look good, does it? So either way, get to that gig and Kevin's hosting it, Katie Tracy's opening, I'm in the middle and Dave Longley's closing. And I went on. Kevin gave me in fact, I need to give you a bit of backstory. So I'm pretty sure the reason why Kevin gave me this gig is because Howard Anstock spoke out on my behalf and recommended me to Kevin. I'm pretty sure that is the reason. So I owe Howard a thank you. Thank you, Howard. This is a public thank you, but I should send you a private one as well. So Howard Anstock, yeah, he did me a favour there and he got me in touch with Kevin and told Kevin to book me. Kevin gave me a great... we were chatting beforehand because, again, we'd never met each other before. We were chatting before and we were chatting more about the business of stand-up comedy rather than stand-up comedy in general. And I was telling him, like, what my thought process is. Because I think, like, my thought process is different from a lot of stand-up comedians. Because, I've talked about it before and I'll just tell you what I was telling him now. I was basically saying that when everyone starts stand-up, a lot of us are kind of... we get in this kind of rat race to prove ourselves to the clubs and we all want to get in the clubs, which I still want to get in the clubs. It's something that I do really want to do and is really something that I want to aim for. But there's a level after that where you can which nowadays you can kind of miss out the clubs because the clubs, essentially, they're all gatekeepers. If you don't impress whoever it is that gives the feedback for that club, you're not going to get in with that club. And as much as I might try and as good as I might think I am, if they don't think that, regardless of what I do on the night, I'm not going to get any further with them. And I saw people like Dan Nightingale, host of the Have a Word podcast, who was in with the clubs for over a decade. However, the big thing in his career was making a podcast, growing his audience through that, and then being able to go, do you know what? I can now just make my living through, doing a podcast, but two, doing my own tour. So I'm going to tour here, there and everywhere. I can sell out tickets directly to the audience. I get a bigger cut that way. I'm getting more money than if I was just in the clubs anyway. And I can dictate where I am. So I can choose, okay, I'll do Newcastle, then I'll do Sunderland. So I'm not going back and forth. I don't need to be in Newcastle for the full weekend. If I am away for the full weekend, it's Newcastle one night, Sunderland the next, maybe Middlesbrough the next. Then I'm back home. He can plan it himself. He can plan it around himself as well. And that's the level. And there's a comedian, his name is Steve Shanyaski, and he was a pro comedian, and he went, do you know what? I'm going to actually dial this back a bit. I'm going to training, I don't know, I won't say what he's training, but he's training in a separate field, and he's decided to go with that as a full-time day job, and then gig when he wants to, because now he's not at the behest of going to the other end of the country for a full weekend because he needs to put food on the table. No, he can make money near home, and then if he wants to go and gig, he can go and do that as well and make extra money there. So I look at those two people who are both from the Northwest, who I really respect them both, and I go, right, as much as I want to be in them with the clubs, I want to create an audience for myself. That's why I focus a lot on social media. I want to create an audience for myself, and then hopefully I can get to the position one day where I can just sell tickets, and instead of making a couple £100 a weekend playing the clubs, I can do that each night playing a solo gig in a theatre around the country, 100 tickets, tenner a pop. That's £1,000 just in tickets right there. Obviously, you're not going to get the £1,000 because you need to rent the theatre. So maybe that's £200 gone. Maybe it's let's call it a quarter straight away. Let's say that the taxman, that's a quarter as well. So now you're down to 500. But either way, you chip away at it, you might clear about 400, 300 in a night. Yeah, you probably play more than that off £1,000. But do you know what I'm saying? Then you can sell merchandise as well to people who are coming to your shows. You can put that on there. Again, you might not sell a hell of a lot of it, but everything helps to kick up that margin. You can make that in a night. That's my goal as a stand-up. And as much as I'd love to be in the clubs and I email them and I try and get in with them and I go and do these trials, it's not life or death if the clubs themselves won't book me, and if the gatekeeper looks at me and says, this is not the kind of person I want in my club for whatever reason, then that's them. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. As to why they might not want me or why I think they should want me. Maybe I should do an episode on that. Why I think you should want me. But on paper, I am a super ideal candidate to have at your venue. Like, I am so diverse that no one is going to be talking about the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Being Polish, being Pakistani, being Muslim, being Northern. I talk about all those things. I bounce all those things off each other. No one can do the kind of stuff that I'm doing because it's so unique. On top of that, I try to build myself a following so that if I'm in your town, maybe I'll sell you a couple of tickets, and maybe the person who they like because they do the style of comedy that the gatekeeper likes, maybe they're not going to sell you those tickets, and maybe they're going to alienate a bigger portion of the audience. But I know that when I go to venues, I try and do, like I said before, I want every person to be laughing at every joke to their highest extent, and I try and nail down and chisel my set to get to that point. So, I don't know. Again, I'm not perfect, and obviously I'm not the finished article because there's so many people who are, so many of the gatekeepers who don't put me in their venues, but I'm trying my best. And anyway, these are the kind of conversations I was having with Kevin, and I was basically saying that I'm working on, I want to work on my own stuff, I want to work on my own following, and I don't want to use it as an excuse, because this is what people do as well. Like, so there's comedians with bigger online followings than me, and people just write them off. All he does is online stuff, and then that's the only reason he gets booked here and there and everywhere. Yeah, but if that person or he, she, doesn't matter, they're a great comic, who cares? Who cares if... Don't use it as an excuse just because you're not working on your social media. Like, I could easily look at... I got, let's say, about 105,000 now between everything, right? Let's say I can look at someone with 200,000 and 250,000 followers, which is the next thing that I want to get. So I can look at someone like going like, well, no, Adam, work on your own stuff. Work on your own stuff. Get to that level, and then if maybe you get those gigs as well, if you think that that's what it is, and if you don't get those gigs, that's fine. Maybe sell tickets of your own, and that's where I want to be. And these are the kind of anyway. That's the conversation I was having with him. Very long story short. So he introduced me on stage, and I had a right good time. I was having such a good time with that audience. They were genuinely incredible. I had a great time with them, and then afterwards he went on Facebook, and again he's only like the third person ever to do it for me, where he's gone online and he's been like, book all these acts, but if you're not booking Adam Anwar already, you need to get on it, because I can do the job, and I can do it to a very good level sometimes as well. A lot of the time, let's just say. I mean, I'd like to say every time, but I'm not a liar. I've just told you 2 times where it was a bit more ropey, but especially in a setting like that where it's a proper comedy night, I'm going to give you at least, like I said, okay, it's a good performance. I'm going to give you at least a good performance. Like even that, which is like a bad performance for me, I'm going to do well for you. I promise you. Please give me an opportunity, somebody. Please. Yeah. So that was that gig. I really enjoyed it. Then we went to a Tesco or an Asda across the road. It was a Tesco. Bought Swabby a little meal deal. Bought myself some sushi from there. I just sat on a wall in a warm night, and then I was just like to myself, yeah, I really enjoyed that. That was top of that. That was really, really, really good. I really enjoyed it. So thank you to Kevin. He gave me 2 bottles of water as well. That was much appreciated. We left. Fantastic. Weekend came. And I watched loads of. Have you seen this Wu-Tang show that's on? Is it on Disney Plus? Now, it's like a dramatization documentary. Usually, I hate this kind of thing, but I love the Wu-Tang Clan. But it's a group that I don't really know all the ins and outs about. So I can watch it. It doesn't matter if you bend the truth within the dramatization, because I don't know that much about them. So take me on that journey. Take me on the journey that you want to take me on. And because I don't know everything about them, I can really enjoy it now. Honestly, I've been really, really enjoying it. Excuse me. Watching I think it's called Wu-Tang: An American Saga or something like that. I think it's up to season 3 in real life, but I'm knocking on to season 2, I think, at the moment. So I've been watching that, really enjoying it. Football started back this weekend. Bolton lost in the Carabao Cup, so now they're out of that. And a player gets sent off. First league game's done this weekend. Community Shields this weekend. So yeah, we're gearing up to the football season, which is exciting. You don't want to hear about that. You want to hear about Monday. Now, what happened on Monday was Dom Hatton Woods had rang me on one of these days after we'd been on this audition together. And he was like, do you want to do my podcast? And I was like, yeah, I can do. Yeah, he goes, right. Will you do it on Monday at 6 o'clock? I was like, not a problem. I'll come Monday at 6 o'clock. So we booked it in Monday, 6:30. Went down there. He went, I want 3 insecurities from you now. This is where everything started to fall apart. Because I don't really have... I've got insecurities, but I don't really... So I think he wanted ones where if he ribbed me, I would be upset. But I don't know. I feel like I don't have anything that I'm not open to a bit of ribbing about. 1, because being a stand-up comedian, you kind of have to be a good sport about things. 2, he asked me for them, so I had to rack my brain, and I was like, right, okay, I've got a big nose, I've got a receding hairline. I'm almost 40 and I don't dress my age. I'm almost 40, I'm not a full-time stand-up comedian. Can you do anything with any of that? And I gave him these kind of things. And he was like, yeah, I'll try and do something with these. But yeah, I think when we're having the back and forth, I think he wanted me to be a bit more upset, but I don't know. And I think another part of it is why I don't obsess about my insecurities and why they don't overly upset me is, 1, I'm quite low maintenance. And I think the main reason is being a Muslim, we have this mentality of everything's written for us. Everything that happens is written for us already. And everything's already, what's going to happen is going to happen. It's not that it's out of our control, but we can only control so much. Whatever happens, happens. Leave it in God's hands. God knows best. That's the kind of mentality that we have, right? And I think because of that, I don't overly worry too much. Because we could talk about my insecurities all day long. I could throw in the fact that, I'm almost 40, I'm not married, I don't have kids. That's something that I would change. But I feel like, again, I can only control what I can control. I'm not a lady, so I can't just get pregnant. It's not something that I could just do of my own choice. I need a tag team partner for that. I need someone who's ready, willing, and able. I mentioned not being full-time in comedy. I'm out of shape especially compared to before. I used to be really skinny. I'm putting on a little bit of timber nowadays. I need to kind of run it off. That's why I've given up bread and I've quit eating bread. So there's a lot of things that I would change about myself that I'm not fully secure about. But you know what I mean? Look at me nose here. I wouldn't be facing this way. There's a little bit of a bump right here, and I can touch it down like that. Can you see that bump there? Yeah. So when I went on there and he was supposed his podcast is about being a bad therapist. Yeah, afterwards he was a bit that wasn't that good, and I was like, yeah, this for this kind of podcast, you asked me to be on it, but I don't know. Maybe if I was more insecure, maybe I'd be doing better in my career. Maybe I would be married and have kids by now. But I don't think that's a great thing to drive you to be married and have kids. Your own insecurities, so that you feel like you need the validation of somebody else. Don't get me wrong, the validation of somebody else is amazing, and when you do get that, I remember being in my younger days, especially when you get that. When I was a teenager, for the first time, getting that was amazing. It was amazing. It does validate you when you're in, because in those days I was very much more insecure. Now I'm almost 40. I can't be insecure about a lot of these things now. I just got to be like, these things are what they are. But yeah, maybe if I was more insecure, I'd be making like, 250 grand a year doing this, that, and the other, and wife and kids, and I'd be doing all this kind of thing, and I'd be in the gym all the time, and I'd be in great shape. But is it better to not have securities? Oh, man, there's gonna be an eclipse tonight. I've just remembered there's gonna be an eclipse tonight, and I want to be outside for it. I want to be outside for the eclipse. Last time there was an eclipse, it was 1999. It was the summer between primary school and high school, and my high school, because I was a low performer. They didn't get the lowest performance, but they got like the bottom, like, I don't know, 20 to 40% in that range. And they were like, guys, we're going to invite you to this summer school because we're going to try and level you up and just bring you up to that 50% mark, so that you can do it like anyone else when it's time to start high school. And my mum made me go. She made me go to that summer school for 2 full weeks in the summer holidays, which honestly felt like punishment. You lose 2 weeks of the 6-week holiday. That is bogus, man. I wasn't a fan of that whatsoever. Was not a fan. Anyway, that's when the last eclipse was in the UK, so I couldn't watch it at home with my mum. I was in that classroom. I remember they closed all the blinds and stuff like that. They wheeled out like one of those TVs into the middle, and then 40 of us all sat around and watched it. And it was all kids from my school and another school from up the road called Ifield. And it was loads of naughty kids, man. Loads of naughty kids in that thing there. And yeah, I really didn't like that. I really didn't like being in summer school. Anyway, Dom's podcast. So, did Dom's podcast, and will it ever see the light of day? I don't know, because if my episode's not that good, fair enough, it is what it is. But I thought, you know what, if I'm in Manchester, I'll try and pick up an open mic. There wasn't any open mics in Manchester anymore on a Monday. We went through this phase where Manchester was getting loads and loads of open mics, and now those are all starting to peter away now all of a sudden. So there's no open mic on a Monday. The closest one, I believe, was in Didsbury. But Creatures Comedy Club, on their secret page that they have just for the comedians, they put out saying, listen, we have got a spot tonight for new material. It's called Off the Page, where people come and try jokes from their joke book that they've not done already. And I went, you know what? I'm in town. I don't have my joke book on me, but I will come and do it. And with an hour before the show, they went, boom, you're on. So I went there and they put me on second, which is absolutely fantastic. Went down there and enjoyed myself. I didn't have anything new with me, but I've got a bus ticket that ages ago, I'm talking about, it might have been about 11 months ago now, I wrote loads of new bits on this bus ticket, little one-liners here and there, like Thierry Henry and all these kind of words. And then I'm like, oh, when I got back to it, it's like, I remember this joke. So got all that together, and I'm just reading it out on stage, and I had such a good time because, one, I'm doing jokes that I might have only ever told like 3 or 4 times off this bus ticket, because again, it's all new material I've never really fleshed out. 2, I'm doing jokes and I don't know what's coming next. I have no idea what's coming next because I've not seen this bus ticket in months. So it was great to do that. Great to be back at Creatures, because again, I don't really do those midweek shows anymore, but it's great to be back there and to be able to pick up that gig. So I ended up doing what? 4 gigs in 5 days, which, is what you should be doing. It's what I should be doing all the time. But because I've scaled it back and I've kind of stopped taking the unpaid gigs, but I'll do stuff like this where if I'm in town, I'll come and do this new material night. I'll come and do an unpaid gig, absolutely, because I'm already here. I'll double it up and I'll make the most of it by coming and doing, new material. Yeah, so that has been the last week. This coming week, I've only got 1 gig. I've got 1 gig, and it's in Altrincham at Easy Cafe. And I do it quite often. I do it every other month, and I host that gig. And it is a lot of fun, to be honest. I like hosting it. I like messing around. Again, this is an older crowd. It's a posher crowd. Not quite as old as what was in Bury, but it is an older and posher crowd like the Bury one. And as I'm the host, I just get to just chat with them and joke around. And honestly, we have such a good time of it. And we have the same people coming back. There's a Polish lady who comes. I think she's called Zosha. And, you know, we have her back. And honestly, really like doing that. So looking forward to going. The only thing that catches me out every time is it starts at 7:30. And I always just get there for like 7:30. Because in my mind, it's starting at 8. And on the day, I'm like, oh, like not even on the day, like about an hour before, like it starts at 7:30. I need to leave now, and I get there, and I get there a little bit late. So that's what I got coming up this week. I need to start just hammering down the doors of promoters again, and just trying to get gigs and try and get stuff in the diary, and just start padding out my diary again, because it is getting a bit sparse, and it is something that I've not focused as much on recently, and I need to get back to that. It is something that is going to improve my comedy career by getting out there, by gigging more. Because again, when you gig, more work comes from it, especially when you do a good job. Like I say, I did this one, and Kevin Caswell Jones straight away afterwards was like, yeah, that was really good. And he even messaged another guy who's added me on Facebook, and he recommended it to him to give me a gig. So that guy's added me on Facebook. I've accepted it now. So hopefully that's another gig that's going to come down the pipe. Down the pike is the real saying for that. I don't even know what that even means. Is that like a fish thing? Like a fish? Like a turnpike? I don't know. What is a turnpike? I thought a pike was like a what thing? I don't know. I did email a Muslim promoter today about trying to get on some Muslim gigs, and there's one main Muslim promoter who books me, so I'm trying to get on with all these other ones, and there's other ones who just don't even know who I am, and it's hard to even find out who's the booker for this, how do I get in touch with them, like yada yada yada. Trying to do that, trying to increase my presence on the scene, and it is just tough, guys. It is just tough to do, but hey ho, I guess it's what we've got to do. Right, guys, I'm rambling. Let's call that a day. Let's call it a podcast. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. We're going to be back next week. I'll tell you how we got on in Altrincham. Hopefully I'll have a good story for you. Either way, we'll have a nice old time of it. See you soon.